Welcome everyone to today's workbook discussion on Zoom. Welcome also to all who join us later by watching or listening to this recording. I'm Laura Fenimore, the Chief Development Officer and Volunteer Coordinator with the Foundation for Inner Peace, the scribe authorized publisher of A Course in Miracles. We really appreciate your partnership with the Foundation. And if you want to learn more about the Foundation or A Course in Miracles, please visit acim.org. If you feel inspired to make a love offering, please visit acim.org, and at the top of the page, you will find the word donate. All donations support the work of the Foundation. Each session will be delving into a discussion of the workbook lessons in A Course in Miracles, led by a moderator team of volunteers that work with the Foundation. What does discussion mean? In our gatherings here, we welcome the Holy Spirit to join us. Through this presence, our meeting becomes a joining of equals to commune with the Holy Spirit's guidance to experience miracles together. Some of the moderators here also support our social media channels, and if you'd like a list of FIP resources, please email support@acim.org, and we'll be happy to share the resource list with you. Now let's begin our discussion.
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Manu Puri, and I have the privilege today to help facilitate this lesson from A Course in Miracles. We'll be on lesson 109, and just before we spend a few moments in stillness and meditation, I'd like to share with us the meeting guidelines. And we are all very familiar with them, but nevertheless, if you would please glance through these guidelines, it has everything to do with course principles, love, kindness, respect. We focus on the course. We share openly and with our hearts engaged. And as we always do, even the facilitation, the moderation, the participation from you, each and every one of us, is to be guided by the Holy Spirit. So we welcome the Holy Spirit to do just that. So welcome once again. And the beautiful title of this lesson is I Rest in God. So if you'd like, just close your eyes gently and let's focus on this beautiful thought. I is everything we are experiencing right now in our beingness. Rest, I let go and relax into the very arms of in God. So I throw back my beingness, let go of my resistance and desires. I relax into the arms of my father and my mother, which is, and who are the parents for all of us. We exult in their presence and we feel very safe. We feel safe and connected, and we can gently open our eyes and smile at each other, welcome each other, look at each other's hearts and the very light that shines bright wherever we see. Welcome. Okay, so this is another one of those extraordinary lessons, and each lesson is obviously extraordinary. This one is as well. What I'd like to do is maybe read us paragraph 4, and then I'm going to invite other people to read, volunteer to read, and what we've done so far, just as a quick recap, is we've actually, as a group, read through the entire text of Lesson 109. And in some depth, we have studied the first three paragraphs. It's about resting in God, quietness. It's the very thought that brings us the peace and quiet that we are and that we deserve. And that's really the focus of this lesson, as is now so apparent. So in paragraph number 4, this is the day of peace. You rest in God.
Manu, could you perhaps enlarge the print a little? Because last week there was a request. Thank
Okay.
you.
Some more, or is this good? Okay. Okay. Thank you. Let me start again. This is the day of peace. You rest in God, and while the world is torn by winds of hate, your rest remains completely undisturbed. Yours is the rest of truth. Appearances cannot intrude on you. You call to all to join you in your rest, and they will hear and come to you because you rest in God. They will not hear another voice than yours because you gave your voice to God. And now you rest in Him and let Him speak through you. Once again, that's the whole course teaching wrapped into one paragraph. It's just so beautiful. And so the invitation is to, it's like we are invited to recognize that we are the eye in the storm. The storm always rages around us. Those are the appearances that the paragraph talks about. The eye is always silent, quiet, peaceful. And does not the paragraph talk about what we are experiencing out there in the world today? It really does. And so at no other time than this time are we invited to our real identity. And how do we really settle into our real identity? We do this by always remembering where we are, and then by inviting the voice of God, the Holy Spirit, to speak through us. So here's my invitation, and here's our invitation for you to speak and talk about maybe this lesson or maybe the next paragraph. Okay, Sharon, what would you like to say or do?
Actually, I wanted to just say that on Sunday, I had a situation where I was, I had driven quite a ways with a friend to see a friend, and both of them have the same political conviction, and everything was going good until one of them brought up an incendiary statement, and they both started commiserating about how bad things was, and it really affected me, and I spoke up and said, I do not want to talk about politics. And my friend said, well, I do. And the other one felt the situation and kind of changed the subject. And then I suggested I go charge the car and they could visit, blah, blah, blah. And I left and did that. But when I left, I didn't feel good. And I thought, well, okay, why don't what I did wasn't so wrong to say, I don't want to talk about politics. And so I kind of had to hunt down what was it that was making me feel not good. And I realized, oh my God, I made it real. By reacting to it, I made it real. And I was able to laugh at it and let it go. But it brought to mind, if I could have just in the moment went inside and said, I rest in God, They could have had their conversation. They could have loved up each other and, commiserating, and I would have been just fine. But instead, in the moment, I listened to the ego. So I just wanted to share that. I wish I would have caught it earlier, but the fact is I did catch it. So that was good. Thanks.
Yeah, that's beautiful, Sharon. That's such a great example of what we experience and how we may act or react. Thank you. Bill?
Awesome. Bless. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for sharing that learning. And it directly relates to something that just also recently happened, and quite often happens to me, where I will see something that just is not congruent and this should not be happening here. And I will put down the thing and then I'll just crush it, stop everything. And, because I did that in the past, that was what was supposed to be done in that instance. But what if I took the way you look at it and just go, this isn't real, obviously, and I don't need to stop it. And I'll just let it go and not acknowledge it, not acknowledging perhaps the wickedness that is happening before mine eyes, if that's what you're also saying. I don't know. I got to act right on my thing makes me act. So, but I'm going to, thank you, Sharon, going to consider that option of just letting it be and see. And I think that would work for normal conversation. But in some situations, that can't happen before my eyes. And I just stop it. How could that have possibly happened before me? And I stop it. And I think I'm not thinking at that time, and I'm reacting.
Yeah.
And I think that, and I hope and I pray and I believe that my instant reaction is also what the Spirit needed for that situation. Okay? Because now I am only interested in being helpful to the unification of the mind of man. That's all I'm here for. I know this. I don't even acknowledge the thoughts that are pretending in my brain that I might want to will them. No. When they come up and they play in my brain, they just get that time and I let them go and I accept that I can't know what I'm thinking. And I don't want to think about it. And I just keep on letting it all go. And that's what I do. That's my state. And then so when the Spirit moves me in situations, it will make me react. And I won't go back. But if I felt guilty, like you said, you felt that feeling, well, then what the hell happened? What was that? Because I shouldn't be feeling this feeling because I am here only to help. Okay. So then I can consider that maybe I had an ego reaction that was inappropriate for what his will would have been or could have been. And I think that now I will give it a second thought every time. Try to, anyways. Thank you.
I'll respond briefly, Bill. Thank you, and then allow others to speak. Couple of the words that you used that, maybe I wasn't thinking. And then at the end, you said, I'll give it another thought. And that, of course, is the totally appropriate way of saying it. But what I was thinking in my mind is maybe we shouldn't be thinking, as in be more in the being mode. And it's not really meant to correct your thoughts, but it's just a slightly different perception of how we might, and I think that's what you meant, obviously. I wanted to add that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
Rich,
you
why don't you go next,
clarifying.
please?
Okay, so paragraph 4 in this lesson here, yes, it's easy to see all of ACIM in almost any paragraph in this book, which is great, which makes it, that's why it's such a good book, is so the ideas. And, the ideas are said in different ways throughout the entire book. And it's just, it's lovely. So, as far as this particular paragraph, for me, the goal is Jesus like peace, tranquility, strength of mind, joy, peace, strength, love, goodness. So how do you get there? So I'm looking in the book about being conflict free. Being conflict free is a key idea to what real peace is. The opposite of peace is being in conflict. So about everything, every spiritual belief, every belief about everything and anything. My beliefs about physical behavior, my beliefs about everything. Like, does it lead to perfect peace, perfect joy, perfect strength, perfect patience, perfect kindness? Yes or no? And if the answer is yes, I'm in the will of God. If the answer is no, I'm in my ego. So, so that to me is just an important idea about the whole thing. And I do know, my recent readings in the book, as far as what I'm emphasizing in terms of learning is once I understand what the real truth is about anything in terms of a spiritual belief or physical behavior or whatever, once I know what real peace, joy, and strength are, I have to also be happy about that truth that the Holy Spirit is giving me. Like if I'm not happy about that truth, if I'm feeling deprivation or something, I'm not going to accept that truth fully. It's not about, you have literally changing my mind, not changing my mind by changing my behavior, but literally changing my mind. So, and then the behavior, of course, will change. But so that to me is, definitely the idea to me, things I'm working on. And yes, as far as what's going on in the world, like 4-2, whatever's going on in any moment with anyone in any way. If I'm living in what I know is perfect joy, peace, strength, I cannot be affected by what anyone else thinks, says, or does. That's not that. I still see them as their perfect capital S self. I see everyone as a Jesus-like being at all times. But regardless of what's going on amongst anyone, if I'm living in that perfect joy, peace, strength, conflict-free way of being with every thought leading to every word and action, then I'm invulnerable. As far as that goes, in terms of my brothers, and yeah, ACIM, many places it talks about silence, being silent. Yes, this is good, but it also talks about be silent so that you can, meditation, so that you can learn and know the will of God, and then speak it through you. Everything's always about the will of God in terms of, let the Holy Spirit speak through you. So that's all part of it.
Thank you, Rich. As you were sharing, I thought of how Jesus is portrayed in some of the holy books. And apparently, wherever he went, whoever he saw, he always first said, "May peace be upon you," or something to that effect, which is
I'll follow.
beautiful. Share,
I'll follow.
Rich, go ahead.
He said that. He also said, "My peace I leave with you." And Jesus's level of peace, there's a sentence in ACIM. It says, "This is no small gift. The peace of Jesus of Nazareth to somebody else, that's a lot of peace." So accept that gift. Really, really focus on that. Live it. Live that level of peace, the peace of God, which passes understanding.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Sherry, you're up next, please.
Thank you. Sharon, thank you so much for sharing your story. I can relate to that in many ways. What I need help with is I understand my reaction makes it real. That like really hit home with me. But if someone asks me to engage or they're like, "What do you think?" and you're right in the middle of all that, and I'm thinking to myself, "Oh Lord, I hope they don't talk to me. I hope they don't ask me any questions. I don't want to get involved." How do I respond to that? I don't want to respond, really.
Yeah. Anybody got any ideas?
Well, yeah, many people do. I'll just say one thing. You could just say, I don't feel like responding.
Yeah, can always.
And I love your company nevertheless, or whatever is the truth for you. You could just utter that. Johanna, you're on mute
Real
right now.
quick, there's two lessons in the workbook, and one says, "Give me your blessing, Holy Son of God, and I give you my blessing, Holy Son of God." And if you think those sentences before responding, then something will be given to you.
Mhm.
Oh,
You can just
It's
count on it.
remembering. It's just you got to remember. I have to remember what's real in the moment. You know? Yeah, thanks.
that's beautiful. Did anyone else have a direct response to Sherry's question before we go to other speakers?
Yeah, and there's a lot of hands up.
Yeah, but if
So,
I-
and
Laura,
my hand is up.
oh,
I can speak to that.
okay.
It's part of the whole, what I was gonna address anyhow. And I'll start off with the first sentence. This is the day of peace. You rest in God. We get caught up in the doing. We get caught up, and Sherry, we get caught up on taking positions of one side or the other that leads into conflict, that leads into chaos. And often people will try and pull us in. So when we can recognize that we don't do peace and we don't do rest, we be at peace, we be at rest, we can simply go back and ask the question, am I at peace? And, give a moment for that to come through us. The gap, there's a couple sections in the text that talk about the gap between reaction and response. So if we're reacting, we'll pull away or we'll engage or we'll move through some of that. But it's in the gap that God is the glue that brings things together. And that only happens when we're willing to be at peace in whatever is going on around us, not running away, not trying to pick sides, just being at peace. And I would offer that that's what, if, the lesson is I rest in God, I am willing to be at peace. And, Bill mentioned that, Manu, Rich, it's come to that place of, okay, it's uncomfortable, but I am going to be at peace in this moment. And from there, what needs to fill through you will come through you. It comes through us if we're willing to be, instead of figuring out what to do in the situation.
Thank you, Bernie.
I'll leave it. No, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernie. That's beautiful. Andrew, you next, please.
Thank you. I rest in God. If I'm resting in God, that means I'm not sitting here in this room. I'm somewhere else. I'm resting in God. Well, being is what rests in God. Our spirit, our true identity. God is love. The ego is a splinter of the mind that lives in fear of reality, and makes this fantasy world that we're living in. So even while we're resting in God, this room can't be God, because the world is a place of fear. So we're just very confused by being here. As far as dealing with people and other opinions, I just try to treat everyone with love, or think I think I love everyone. So whatever I say about them, I have to say from a point of love, not from fear. I know I'm not making a whole lot of sense because I get confused sometimes, but that's the comment I've got. Thank you.
No, I love that, Andrew. It was everything you said made sense to me, and I think it landed really well. Thank you for sharing, as always. Sora?
But I'm just going to repeat what's already been said. There's no perfection here. God, the only perfection is in God. Other than that, we're still, as long as we're here, my understanding, as long as we're here and in a body, we still have work to do. So, what I'm hearing is the idea of guilt, that I'm afraid I'm going to do it wrong. If you're witnessing some kind of altercation, and what do I do? And what do I handle it? And a few of you already said, you ask. You become the channel. You ask for guidance. So, and my husband was always became famous in meetings when his guidance was always shut up, Dubitsky. So, don't say anything. That could be perfect guidance, or take a breath, it'll pass. And I mean, the nature of the world is conflict. I'm convinced 3D reality is never going to be a place for peace. The only place where there's peace is within us. And it's our job then to extend that out and be the presence of peace. And there's a section in the manual, Can God Be Reached Directly? And it speaks to some of this conversation about sometimes a teacher of God may have a brief experience of direct union with God. In this world, it is almost impossible that this endure. It can perhaps be won after much devotion. And then it goes on saying those who attain it, don't stay in the body very long. So on the one hand, if we're still here, oh, wow, okay, we're still here. On the other hand, oh my God, I'm still here. Meaning that there's just still something to learn and to stop being afraid of making mistakes. Mistakes will always be corrected if you didn't get it right, whatever that means. If you weren't peaceful after the first time, guess what? You'll get another opportunity. The opportunities always come along, and to maybe to do it differently, and that's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Megan, you're next.
So for me, I'm recognizing more and more that my ego tries to make the world more orderly so I can manage it better. But when I try to impose my ego's order on the world, I'm doing an insane thing. There's no order that my ego knows of that actually is greater than Holy Spirit's order, because that's something that is calm in the storm. And so I recognize not only am I trying to order the world so that it makes sense to me, but every other person in the world is also doing the same thing. They're trying to impose an order on a very strange experience. They're trying to come to some conclusion or definition in their ordering of things. And those are the things that trigger us, these things that they may impact our ego's idea of the order. They may align with our order, but in some way they are not necessarily the truth. So when I stop and say, wow, they are doing exactly as I am doing, we are no different. And the one thing that I can do in this situation is ask Holy Spirit, I trust your will. I trust, I rest in peace. I rest in the peace that you give me, the truth. And I will not try to impose my order, nor will I try to impose other people to see things in the way that they cannot see them right now, because I can't make somebody see something that they have not the ability, the willingness, or or their ego is so up that anything that I say will just be pushed off of them immediately in response, versus them offering them my, what is it? When I'm trying to push order on things, I'm pushing into the world. When I'm resting in peace, I am the calm in the storm, and I give a much, much more of a cushion, versus I'm not pushing anybody to say, take my opinion. I'm saying, I'm confident in my opinion. I respect you have an opinion. And in that, then you're allowing them to see that whatever they say is not going to phase your peace, because your peace comes from a different place. And that is the only way you can have an inspiration or inspire somebody to think differently. But if you try to push your order on them or say something, then that always gets not done well. So thanks very much.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan. Another great idea on how to respond, Sherry, in that situation. There's a picture that came to my mind as you were speaking, Megan, which is so every human being with their ego is trying to impose their order onto the world, right? So we are all of us trying to do that, and we are told by the Course that there is a real world, at least at first, and in that real world, the way to maybe experience that real world is to do what you said. If all of us kind of go back, find our peace, and the relative unrest around there starts to diminish, then that's our entree into the real world. And that's how we bring others along as well, because the peace is just kind of uh, going uh, going ballistic, to use a very contrary word in this situation. Uh, David, you go next, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for what's being shared. It's so interesting, actually. Just like nowadays, we live in a reality with so much division, especially, I think. And talking about like opposing beliefs in general life, right? There's a little quote at the beginning of the course, if I can recall correct, which says something like this. I'm sorry because I'm translating from Spanish to English on my mind, but it says, a universal form of theology is impossible, but a universal experience of God, it's not only possible, but necessary. Am I right? So,
Yes.
thank you. This quote brings so much clarity. This quote brings on my mind, because in an experience where we have so many opposing beliefs, so many opposing visions, opinions, etc., I think Jesus clearly states that we've got to pursue the universal experience of God. I think we should not be chasing to all have the same kind of opinions and the same kind of experiences, the exact same belief systems, right? When it comes to the common things, and just that quote brings so much peace, because I guess it takes off the weight of being the one who has to be the corrector of the whole world, and the I don't know how to say it in English, but the I don't know, the person who has to put everything in place. That's not my function here. That's all.
Yes, thank you, David. That's perfect. It's building on what others have said, what Megan also said.
Can I
Go ahead, Megan. Then after you, we'll go to Peter and Stephanie.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna relate. It's from the manual, The Clarification of Terms. It says a universal theology is impossible, but a universal experience is not only possible, but necessary. It is this experience toward which the course is directed. Here alone, consistency becomes possible, because here alone, uncertainty ends. Thank you.
Beautiful. That's the exact quote in English. And of course, a quick response. As I was reading through the lesson and reading the words peace, truth, real, and many other English language symbols that are used for that experience, I was just thinking that it's really the experience being described in a myriad of ways. Peter?
Yes, I'm really appreciating the discussion. Here's my 2 cents. I have a practical solution that I think comes out of what I'm about to read from chapter 12, section 3, the investment in reality. Suppose a brother insists on having you do something you think you do not want to do. His very insistence should tell you that he believes salvation lies in it. If you insist on refusing and experience a quick response of opposition, you are believing that your salvation lies in not doing it. You then are making the same mistake he is and are making his error real to both of you. Insistence means investment, and what you invest in is always related to your notion of salvation.
Oh,
Now, later he goes on and he says, if your brother asks you to do something that's harmful, then you probably shouldn't do it. But the idea is, I think, and this goes back to what Sharon was saying initially, don't make the error real, don't make the situation real. And if I have this response, and I've been in this situation, if I have this response of, oh my God, I don't want to go there, I'm giving that situation power over me. I think instead what I can do is focus on the love for the people that I'm with and focus on the relationship. And a practical solution in that situation might be something like, gee, I don't really have an opinion to share, but I love how passionate you guys are. I love how much you've thought about this and how much you believe in this. So I really appreciate you sharing that with me. And then just let it go, without don't have to explain, defend, or justify, don't have to make anybody wrong, don't have to be. And again, sometimes in the moment, it's hard to remember that. But then I can always forgive myself later. That's what I got. Thanks.
yes, yes. Thank you, Peter. If you have the ability, please share that quote in chat that you read earlier. Stephanie?
This conversation is very powerful for me. I want to start out by saying that one of the things I'm changing my perception about is from thinking mistakes are bad, which is what my definition of perfectionism, or what I've learned perfectionism is, to that mistakes can be good. And I'm going to say that I'm so grateful for the last meeting we had, because the subject of perfectionism came up because I brought it up. And so I have seen so much in this last week about myself. I want to say a little bit about that. And so I'm so grateful for the conversation. I felt I made a mistake last week, but now I think it was probably the best thing that could have happened for me. So, one of the things I realized is that I'm driven towards spiritual growth. And when I say driven, driven is not good. Driven is not peace. Driven is kind of out of my control, or out of control, let's say. So, like, what came up for me is that every time I leave my friends, I have a good time when I'm with them. And then when I'm leaving, I'm just criticizing myself, beating myself up for whatever mistakes I thought I made. And of course, I beat others up too for their mistakes. In my mind, I'm more careful now in what I say. And so I brought it to the Holy Spirit. And with the Holy Spirit, what I felt I got from the Holy Spirit was I can have an even better impact on myself and others through being calm. Now, I have to say, calm is not like a word I would usually describe myself as being. I'm working on it. I'm a work in progress. And let's see. So the idea that don't make the error real,
that was something I could not understand until this past week. I couldn't get it. And so
Yep.
I'm starting to understand that now. And I feel like this is really a great, like this could really make my life so much more pleasing and also have less fear, because what I did realize, I'm going to stop soon. What I realized is underneath my being driven was fear. So I'm giving it up. Thank you. And thank you for this meeting. And Rich, thank you for mentioning how many times perfection was mentioned, or perfect or perfection was mentioned in the course. That had a good impact on me. That's it.
Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah, it's yeah, I'm just gonna let Rich speak next. That what you said is beautiful, and I think we need to just listen to what we are led to, wherever we are led, basically. And we know, of course, that the Holy Spirit will make lemonade from each lemon that we think we have created. So there is no real mistake at the end of the day. It's very, very true.
Could I just add one more little thing? So I'm not saying anybody else should do this. This is not a suggestion. But for me, what I've started to do to help change my way of seeing, that when I observe that I'm being critical of myself or somebody else, I'm just saying everything is in perfect order.
Yes, yes, it really is. And we should feel safe in thinking that. Rich, as you start speaking and then a comment, I have a request for you. So once you're done, paragraph 5 is a beautiful paragraph that's almost meditative in its form. So I would like you to, once you're done, start reading paragraph 5 in a slow tempo, sentence by sentence, and allow us to experience it when you do that. So please go next.
All right. Yeah, what Stephanie said there about, ACIM, the word perfect followed by another word, is in this book a lot. I mean, that is the goal. I mean, even perfect blamelessness is in this book. Aside from perfect freedom, perfect joy, ... So I mean, it's a goal. And I enjoy what's being talked about. I mean, for me, the subject is God's teachers do not judge. And then in the manual, it says, without judgment are all things equally acceptable. It's in the part about tolerance. So kind of like, to me, what's been said, I agree. And this is how I would say it, is just that, yeah, I live up to what I know is sinless, pure, and holy for myself in every way. And that's all I'm looking for in others. And I'm not judging anyone else. Whatever anyone else does without judgment are all things equally acceptable. So whatever anybody else is doing, the polar opposite of my beliefs, the polar opposite of my behavior, that's fine. I'm not going to judge it. I'm just not going to, I'm not going to judge it in any way, as I go through my moments. And I mean, that to me would be the idea. I think Jesus lived that way. He lived in moral majesty, but he wasn't judging anyone else in terms of what they were doing. So, but also mentioned was that little piece in the book about if God were reached directly in sustained awareness, the body would not be long maintained. So I just wanted to say something about it. Just I like it, just that Elijah, chariots of fire. I mean, there are a lot of ways. There are ways to leave this world other than aging and dying. There are. And so that would really prove that you're not a body if you suddenly left, similar to Elijah, like, you just kind of lighted out, I'll say, like just kind of light bodied out. You were just light bodied gone. That would be, really stating that you're not a body. In anyway, everything's a topic. But as I was looking that up, I noticed there's another good sentence about the exact same thing. It says in psychotherapy supplement, we speak of ideal teaching in a world in which the perfect teacher could not long remain. So once you achieve a certain level of perfection in terms of your character and how you interact and all of it, once you achieve a certain perfection, you will leave this world probably in something like Chariots of Fire Elijah. So, so it's kind of interesting that the goal is to perfect your character and then leave this world without aging and dying. I'll say that much about it. For me, it's a big, big subject. I've read a lot of things about it. I'm sure a lot of people here have read a lot of things about the subject, but that's a couple minutes from me. All right, so I am going to read paragraph 5. Okay, here comes my reading voice if you're ready. Okay. In him, you have no cares and no concerns, no burdens, no anxiety, no pain, no fear of future, and no past regrets. In timelessness, you rest, while time goes by without its touch upon you. For your rest can never change in any way at all. You rest today, and as you close your eyes, sink into stillness. Let these periods of rest and respite reassure your mind that all its frantic fantasies were but the dreams of fever that has passed away. Let it be still and thankfully accept its healing. No more fearful dreams will come now that you rest in God. Take time today to slip away from dreams and into peace.
That was beautiful.
That's beautiful. Not much to say after that, but nevertheless, we still have a few minutes here. Rich, do you want to say anything else before we go to Sora?
Always. I can't help myself, but I'll just say something briefly about the very first sentence. Here's again the goal to truly live this way. I'll just say that much about it. Again, the high goal of how to be in terms of character, love, peace, joy, Jesus-like. That's all.
Okay, thank you. Sora, you're next.
What I keep thinking is that I can't rest in God until I trust God. And I keep thinking of the characteristics of the teacher of God, and the bottom line is trust. And it goes through a whole section of the development of trust, and the development of trust takes time. But and that's what we're here for. But that's just so important. This week, I'm leaving on a trip to California, flying. And airplanes have been flying out of the sky lately. And so, okay, the trust, like, have I been resting God? Not really yet. But I do have an internal dialogue going on and saying, okay, this was a guided trip, and I trust it'll all be fine. So trust is really important to me, and it's still well, as it says in the book, it's still the number one characteristics of a teacher of God, to just trust. And there can't be rest without trust. That's the whole point I wanted to make.
That's great, Sora. Thank you. And I would say there is no trust without rest.
Okay.
And only because, there's no clear distinction. It's not like you've developed a certain level of trust and now you're ready to rest, right? It has to be back and forth, back and forth. Yeah, exactly, Johanna. We have to allow ourselves to rest. And then we realize, oh, we are starting to trust. And then, back and forth. You're right, of course. And then there's more to it.
So I was reviewing, somebody else mentioned Ken Wapnick. I was reviewing some of his material. It was a recording of a workshop he did. And he talked about exactly asking for guidance and how we're afraid to ask the Holy Spirit or Jesus for guidance because we think they're too busy for this, for whatever the problem is. And the practice is ask about everything.
Yes, yes. Beautiful. And then, yeah, don't forget to rest in your airplane seat as you fly.
Yes, thank you.
It'll be beautiful. Sharon?
Yeah, personally, I think resting in God is being in the moment so that, and everything is perfect in the moment, even if the plane falls out of the sky.
Mm.
It's perfect. And if my plane falls out of the sky, I'll know I'm the one that wrote that script along with everybody else on the plane. We all said, let's go together.
Let's do it. Yes. Yep,
All gonna
that's beautiful.
die.
Absolutely.
We're all gonna see, the course says that death is the ultimate dream that we dreamt. And so it's just part of the grand illusion. And so once we decide that this is all illusion and we start resting in God and find the peace that we already are, then it's my deep understanding there is no death. Whether we go in flames like Elijah or in some other fashion, there is no death. Megan.
I like that when people say I have trouble with trust. It's really that we have trouble with specific trust because we do all of us have personal ability to trust things. Like Tony Robbins was saying, we have trust. You drive 60 miles an hour down one way of the highway, and other people are driving 60 miles an hour down the other way. And so for some reason, you seem to trust that they're not going to come in, into your side and hit you head on. So there are levels of trust that we have innately that we've accepted, but our ego seems to have these things that we've built up that we don't quite trust yet. And so I think for me, my personal journey has been to slowly allow the trust to build and to see my fear, recognize it as a fear and that it's a fear and also trust issue. And then when it resolves well, I say, wow, I could have trusted that, and I gain more trust in it. So I'm working my way through the trust that this give and take that Johanna and Manu were doing, like this thing. But it's the allowing myself to break down some of the barriers to trust that I had put in as this is how the world works, this is how far I will trust, and I will go no further in these areas. And when I recognize other areas that I'm very trusting in, and I don't know the difference, except the difference is definitely me. Thanks.
That's beautiful. A great segue into how we'll close this hour. So for now, I skipped paragraph 6 and 7 because trust does appear, as you can see in the sharing, once in this lesson. You rest within the peace of God today and call upon your brothers from your rest to draw them to their rest along with you. You will be faithful to your trust today. Side note, you already have it. Forgetting no one, bringing everyone into the boundless circle of your peace, the holy sanctuary where you rest. Open the temple doors and let them come from far across the world and near as well, your distant brothers and your closest friends. Bid them all enter here and rest with you. And like Johanna said, bless your brothers, receive their blessings, and just get that exchange going. That's where real life is today.